There
I have
was.
no idea.
Philip Schofield and Sarah Green.
Yes.
That might have aged me right there.
Was that Live in Kicking or was that something else? Was
What's
there
that?
Live in
I think Live in Kicking came after Going Live.
Oh, I
Okay.
remember Swap Shop. That's how old I am.
Ah, no, you've aged yourself right there.
And I have had gout in the last 2 years.
Have you? Oh, gosh, I better watch myself. Isn't it caused by damp or something? Do I need? I don't know. What is it?
No, it's lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a build-up of
sorry?
crystals caused by.
Oh yes, liver.
Yeah.
Is it?
And
Yeah, liver function.
My liver can't break down certain things in my bloodstream, so that's why one of the things I get now and again is gout.
I had that when I was pregnant. I had some
I'm not pregnant.
bile. No, but I had that.
Let's stand up.
Not
Come on,
gout.
Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really painful, gout. Really painful. Anyway, sorry.
Well, welcome everybody.
Everybody's ailments out of the way.
Yeah, we are. We are live with the latest Fresh Expressions webinar. Welcome.
Oh, great.
To you. And we've started it by having a conversation about whether Adam is pregnant and gout. So we are recording this, so you'll be able to watch that back later.
Early onset gout.
Yeah, so already somebody has commented, I'm not sure what I've walked into.
Welcome to gout.
Oh, yes. Oh.
Just for those of you who might be confused, welcome. This is a Fresh Expressions webinar, and it's jointly, hopefully, providing I've got the technology right, being broadcast over the Fresh Expressions network, but also over the Revs network as well. So through Revs Limiter, which Adam has set up. So we're delighted that we're able to do this together, and really looking forward to the kind of the conversation as we go through today. Really, thank you, Stuart, for that comment. Really excited about just the interaction and the conversation. So yeah, already for those of you who are familiar with this kind of thing, if you want to put where it is that you're from, that's absolutely fantastic. We'll get a rough idea of how people are engaging. But also the other thing is we're going to share just for a couple of minutes about the biggest kind of what is the best car that you've ever owned that you dare own up to. Okay, so we're going to just go around. We'll introduce people and then we'll explore that question. So, Adam, do you want to start for us? How come you're in this space?
How come I'm in this space? I'm Adam. I am a vicar in the Church of England. I live in Shrewsbury in sunny Shropshire. Well, it is sunny today. But for the last six and a half years, I've been heading up something called the Revs Project. But before I became a vicar, I had a background in the car industry. I was a designer. So I drew pretty pictures and made clay models of cars all day. And worked for people like MG Rover and Rolls-Royce Motor Cars. Did some yacht design as well, and worked abroad for 3 years, where I did stuff for people like Porsche, for Audi, BMW, and Peugeot Citroën. So kind of a whole mishmash of stuff. Can I slightly ask that we alter the question in that what's the kind of car that I would love to own? Money, no object.
Okay, go for it. Yeah,
most Aston Martins will get me out of bed in the morning, but there is one car that was on Top Gear recently that I've seen that I just love, and that's a car called the Alphaholics GT8R, which is an Alfa Romeo, but it's fettled, rebuilt, completely updated by a company called Alphaholics just outside Bristol. And what they do with this car is just automotive magic, really. They're not cheap. I'll never own one, not until the Church of England decide to pay me £500,000 a year. But yeah, but they just are. It's everything I love about cars on four wheels in one package.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adam. Charlotte, welcome. Great to have you with us. Do you want to just talk about how come you're in this space? And then, well, you might want to just tell the story that you've got anyway. That would be great.
Yeah, sure. So, hello, my name's Charlotte, but you're all friends now, so please do call me Charlie. I am here because I met Rev I think it's about 3 years ago now in Monte Carlo, or Monaco, after he'd finished the Monte Carlo rally. And I was there reporting for, at the time, the Sunday Times, where I worked for 10 years. And I was going to write a story about that journey that they'd made in these cars. And that was because I had just inherited a car from my late grandfather, which had actually done the Monte Carlo Challenge in 1991, driven by somebody else, not my granddad, but came first place. And so that's how Rev and I met. I got made redundant from my job at the Sunday Times and Times in 2019, end of the year. And at the start of 2020, found myself unemployed, and then a pandemic hit. Which, you know, for all of us has had a lot of challenges personally and professionally. And Rev and I built up a friendship during this time, from when we met on that start and finish ramp in Monaco, and to the start of last year when everything kicked off. And when he said he was putting on this online car show, it really gave me something to focus on. And that was, I think the first one was in June, wasn't it? And May, June time. And so he said to me, could you tell your story about your car and your grandfather for the car show? You know, so you can think, I've got no work on, I can't see friends, family, all that sort of thing, the same as a lot of people. And Rev said, you know, tell your story in this safe space online, where, you know, literally and physically and mentally, it's a safe space, because everyone's there because they want to come together and enjoy something, which is cars and that community. And so on my driveway, I got my car out and told that story. And basically that story is about the car is an MGA Roadster, 1960, hot red, and called Frisky because the number plate is FSK 302. And that car has become, you know, I was never into cars before inheriting this MGA. My dad's a mechanic. He'd always tried to get me interested. Couldn't care less, you know, like, you know, I've got a car, you fix it, that kind of relationship. But Frisky, which is, you know, what I call the car and what my granddad called the car, has given me an entirely new purpose in life. I'm building a career around the car. I've found friends and a community around this car, particularly during that pandemic. What Revs has created was a place where I've met people at a time where we can't meet anybody physically. And that's all because of a car, because of us meeting in Monaco, that choice that my granddad made when he bought that car 30-something years ago. And yeah, so it's just, you know, the car's changed my life, but you know what Revs has created by letting me tell the story of the car, which would take me ages to waffle on about, because I do tend to waffle. Yeah, that she's also my favorite car, which sort of goes back to your original question. Yep. Because, you know, she's my favorite car is the MJ Roadster.
It sounds so glam, doesn't it, when we say we met in Monaco?
Yeah, I do.
It's very grand, doesn't it?
Very glamorous.
It wasn't actually that glamorous, was it, really? Because I was dressed up in Eskimo suit, because we were doing it we're in a pre-war car.
We had a multiple course dinner. I think that's pretty, you know.
Yeah, the multiple course dinner was good.
Yeah.
No, it was good.
Great. Fantastic. Thanks, Charlotte. Catherine, tell us about how you're in the room.
Yeah, because I'm a bit of an odd one out, so I'm not really a petrol head in any way. Although I do drive. I've owned a number of cars. I'm a bit reluctant to confess which ones I've owned, so I'll wait to decide whether I'm going to say. But I met Rev Adam a couple of years ago through a CMS course that I run called Make Good. And that's when we spent a week, 5 intense days, talking about Revs as a project, as an idea, what it's about, what it was currently doing, and then where it could go over time. And we were there was a lot of talking about maybe having your own space, like a garage or something like that. And then a bit of thinking through that, but then obviously lockdown, coronavirus, and then it just all massively changed, and it's been amazing to watch that journey and watch what Adam's been doing over this time, and how the community's been growing and establishing, and really offering a community to people in this time. It's been amazing. So we've more recently picked up again, working on where Revs can go in the future, and how to put some structure around it. And that's what I do. So I'm from an organisation called Good Makers Society, and we're all about making good in the world. So if anyone's got any ideas for new communities, pioneering spiritual communities or social enterprises, or something that's making the world a better place, I love to hear about those ideas and help people figure out how to get them going.
Brilliant.
So shall I confess what was my first car was? Maybe that would be the best one. I don't know if you'll ever... Most people have never even heard of this. Okay, I had a Talbot Samba.
Oh, yes.
You had a Samba?
Yeah.
I did, a Talbot Samba. I think it cost me 150 quid from someone who lived across the road from my school. And that was what I drove once I was doing my A-levels.
How long did it last?
Till I was 22, so quite a while actually. Three years. It's not bad. Yeah, it's definitely a bit damp by the end of it. Got a bit leaky. But yeah, little silver one with some pink and orange Go Faster stripes down the side.
That's 150 quid's worth on its own.
Yeah.
I have to say, before we carry on, the whole point of this is that it is community. It's not just me having done stuff. It's a whole group of people. I mean, the very fact that there are 4 other people here as well as me just points to the fact that 4 other people have had a major impact in Revs. And then there's a whole community. I'm just the guy with his name on it, but actually there's hundreds and hundreds of people who've been involved in some way, shape or form. And without it wouldn't be what it is now without them.
Yeah, great. Nick.
Right, where do I start? My name's Nick Other. It's an unusual name. You'll never forget it. And
like no other.
I actually met Adam a few years ago, and I was introduced to him by someone who was a curate. She's now Reverend Deborah Walton. She came and did a curacy in the village where I live, which is Kinver in South Staffordshire. And I was looking for something. I was involved in the church. I was a warden up at the church, and I was looking for something to do some extra training and learn about things. And she suggested I did a mission-shaped ministry course, which I did for 2 years. Absolutely loved it. Couldn't quite figure out, coming towards the end of it, what I was going to do with all that knowledge. It was around about my 60th birthday, and my wife bought me I always like little old cars, and she bought me, completely unknown to me, didn't even have a clue what it was when it came, a Nissan Figaro. I won't say it's my favourite car. I think Charlotte's my favourite car. Charlotte's MGA is my favourite car. But this Nissan Figaro turned up on the drive on my birthday over Christmas, and I thought, well, this is a bit of fun, and I was a little bit uncertain about it until I drove it, and then I drove it, and it was absolutely fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And anyway, so I was just finishing this mission-shaped ministry course, trying to find what I was going to do. The village we live in is probably a fairly well-to-do village, so it didn't really have a lot of need that you might find in a city for some sort of new community. But Deb Walton introduced me to Adam, and told me about this car group he was doing, and he started with Revs in Shrewsbury, and I said, well, we could do that in Kinver, or we did it in Enville Church, which is a sister church to the Kinver Church, and we started a car group, and I'm probably the lead person after Adam that runs that group, and we just created. We were open doors. We didn't really know what to expect. People turned up. We just put signs on the side of the road. People turned up. We let people knew locally what we were doing, and we're creating the most amazing community. Probably 40, 45 people that are part of it. Although we don't know whether whether all will attend when we get back open again. But over the last few months, learning from Adam's Revs Limiter, we create Zoom meetings on a regular basis with we don't call them members, we're part of the group, but the people who attend, they come along and see these meetings and join us on these Zoom meetings, and it's a great way of keeping in touch. We've got a number of them that are in quite difficult places at the moment, so we support them in the way we believe is right as for a community and a part of the church. So that's about my lot, I think.
Yeah, great, thank you. And just lastly, so my Adam and I met, well, probably we'd known about each other for some time, haven't we? But we kind of finally connected probably about...
Yeah, your reputation does precede you.
3 months ago. Thanks, Adam. And we've just had a number of conversations since, and we just thought it would be really great to kind of do this kind of mashup between Fresh Expressions, which is the organisation that I work for. My simplest way of talking about that is basically we're interested in kind of doing church for those people who aren't into church. So we're involved in an organisation which sets up churches or Christian communities in forests, in cafes, in bars, in gyms, all over the place. Messy Church, which some of you might have heard of, is part of the kind of the Fresh Expressions movement. So that's what I'm in. My role is kind of networker for across the kind of movement. I get to do lots of fun things like host these conversations and meet lots of really brilliant people. So it's a cracking job. I really enjoy. So I just wonder. So I'm with Catherine. I am not a petrol head, so that's my confession. So once for my birthday, when I was, it was a significant birthday. I won't tell you how many it was. I got to drive a Jaguar F-Type for the weekend, the 5-litre version, which was great. So I remember sitting on the motorway. I don't know whether I should admit this, and this fancy BMW drew up alongside me and kind of waved at me, and I just thought, I'm not having this. So I just put my foot to the floor, which at that point, I thought maybe I'm a slight petrol head, but yeah, that would be.
They're very good at going sideways, those F-types as well. Really.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
This was really good at going in a straight line, especially beating a BMW. So.
Very cool.
So yeah. So Adam, I just wonder, just tell us kind of, the story of Revs and how it's gone on. We've heard a little bit of it from Charlotte, from Catherine, and from Nick as well. But it would just be great to hear kind of that story, and then we'll open it up to people if they want to kind of ask any questions as we kind of go through. So yeah, if folks do want to interact, then just type the questions and live, and we'll answer them as we kind of go through. But go for it, Adam.
Well, I mean, like I said, I worked in the car industry. I grew up loving cars. Really, as soon as I could walk. I just there was something about the shape, the noise, the smell, all of that stuff, and so went to university, studied car design, got into the industry, worked with some amazing people, had some amazing experiences, and then all of a sudden found myself kind of exploring whether I felt called to full-time Christian ministry as a vicar. And for those that don't know, the whole process of going to vicar training is a bit like the SAS, but with more tea and cake.
Where do I sign up?
Let's dive through windows. Is how I used to describe it, and because it's quite intense, and you go on a 3-day selection course and all of this stuff, and it's a real kind of examination process of whether this feels a right step for you to take. And I got through that, and I left Rolls-Royce in 2011 and went straight to Theological College in Bristol and trained for 2 years, and then went and did what's called a curacy, which is like being a vicar with L-plates. But there was always some sense of a disconnect between what I did on a Sunday or what I was training to do in becoming a vicar to the life that I'd had before. And I think I even went through a bit of a grief reaction when I left Rolls-Royce and went to somewhere where nobody drew cars. What's that about? Why are we sitting here talking about the Bible? I want to draw cars. There was a disconnect, and through reading various things and talking to various people, and actually the course that I was on to train, I realised that there didn't need to be a disconnect, and Revs started from that desire to make these things connected and to connect these worlds that seem to be disconnected. And it really came about because I did my curiosity at a very well-to-do parish church in Middle England, which was on a private road, and there were people with Ferraris and Aston Martins, on this private road, and then the church at the bottom of this private road. It was awesome. And I remember walking around the parish boundaries, and there was one guy there cleaning his Aston Martin, and he was cleaning it behind his massive, huge gated gate, which was electric, all this thing, massive house. And I kind of walked up to him and I said, "Excuse me, chap, your DB9 has got the sport pack on it, hasn't it?" And he looked at me and he was like, "How do you know that?" Because he clocked the collar, you see. And this conversation started. And to me, it was a really clear indication that actually these worlds can be brought together. And, for me as a petrol head and as a Christian, I can scratch both itches. And there was the possibility of relationship and community at the heart of that, bringing people together. So we did a classic car show. My vicar was very good and let me kind of have this crazy idea of the church is going to hold a classic car show. And we did it in the church. The first year we had 2014 it was, and we had 26 cars. The following year we did it again and we had 42 cars. And people were like, "Wow, the church is kind of, doing something interesting, and they're inviting us with our cars to come." And that's exactly what we did. And we didn't charge anyone because we didn't want people going, "Well, the church is just after our money." So all the food and the drink were free. And we just said, "Look, we want to enjoy what you enjoy. Our curate happens to be an absolute petrol head. Maybe there's a connection here." And we began to develop relationships, and it was brilliant because community was happening. People were coming and they weren't being beaten over the head with the Bible when they arrived, but they could talk about the stuff that they were going through, and they could see that there was a caring community that wanted to support them and that maybe had something to share that was positive and life-affirming and that actually made a difference to them. Whether they decided to take an invitation to explore faith or whether they kept it at hot dogs and sports cars, it didn't matter. They were welcome. So we kind of opened it out, and I always thought, well, if this is great every year, but actually we're not maintaining those relationships through the year quite so easily. So what if we do a car meet every month, like Cars and Coffee? Let's do that. Which came about when we moved to Shrewsbury, and we started Revs Shrewsbury, which was this small Cars and Coffee group. We still kept an annual show. And then, as Nick said, I got a contact from Nick's curate, Debs, and she said, "Look, would you come and start a Revs group down here, a Revs Car and Coffee group down here?" Because we've got people likewise who don't think church has anything to say to them, but love their cars, love community, and want to do something with it. So that's where Revs Enfield started. We've got Revs Biddulph, which is just outside Stoke-on-Trent. That starts in, well, hopefully August. So that'll be our third Revs group.
Wow.
So all that was going on, and it was great. And I thought, well, that's fab. And then we got COVID, or we didn't, but people got COVID, and we went into lockdown. And I remember going for a walk with Charlotte, my wife, not Charlotte MGA, Charlotte Mrs. Revs. And she said, "Oh, you're grumpier than usual. Why is that?" And I said, "I can't get my car out, and I've got all these good mates, people like Charlotte, like Nick, like we've got Charlotte and I have a mutual friend, Alex, who's got the most amazing three-wheeler, Morgan. You know, we were all kind of sitting there on social media going, we can't get our cars out. This is really frustrating. And to us, you know, the ability to go for a drive, even for 10, 15, 20 minutes, with, if you're Charlotte, you've got the roof down, or if me, you've got, you know, I've got my old Rover. There's something that is just deeply kind of healing about that whole thing. So, so you've suddenly got a whole load of people who can't get out and are really, really grumpy. And Revs Limiter came from that. It was like, well, if we can't do our annual thing physically, let's do it online. And by this time, I'd begun to build up relationships with a whole number of people. So Charlotte very kindly came on. Our mutual friend Alex, who's a freelance journalist, he got involved. We got various people from automotive media involved, including people from TV. So we've got Vicky Butler Henderson, who people might remember from Top Gear years ago, and on Fifth Gear now, and a chap called Jimmy DeVille, who is one of the nicest guys we know, and who does quite a lot of, it's kind of like car SOS, but he pimps cars up as well. I mean, does a whole load of things, Jimmy, and does amazing things with mince pies as well, but that's another story.
I do have video evidence of that.
Yeah, we have video. But all these amazing people, and people at home who were just as amazing, who got a car in their garage that they were working on, or you know, people like Charlotte who got a story that just needed telling, and we just gave them a space to do it. And we thought it would be a once only event. Yeah. And I remember the night before thinking, you know, when this goes live tomorrow, if we get 200 people tuning into this, I'll be well happy. By the end of the first day, we had over 2,000.
Wow.
Which, yeah, blew my socks off.
Yeah.
By the end of the first event, which was a 2-day event, we had nearly 2,500, 3,000 people. And it's grown since then. And people like Charlotte, like Nick, like Catherine are all kind of have that role of shaping, of going on a journey with this whole Revs thing, and making it something that's inclusive. I mean, what Limiter has done, you know, is just bring people together, which is what the small groups that we've been running have been doing. You know, and there is an invitation to explore life. There's an invitation to explore faith. And even the fact that we, at the beginning of a virtual event, will say to people, look, if you're really struggling at the moment, and who isn't because of lockdown, you know, if you want to, you can have somebody pray for you. And it's not that we're going to sit there mumbo-jumboing and, you know, we're just going to say your first name to God and ask God just to show you his love. Simple as that. Yeah. And people can take up that, or they don't have to. But what we really want to do is make sure that whether you want to kind of sign up to explore faith, or whether you just want to talk about camshafts and NGs and Rovers and Aston, you're accepted and you're valued and you're just as much part of the community as anybody else. So we have people that own incredibly nice motor cars, but we also have people, you know, who are scratching every month to make sure that they can keep their car running, and they need to feel just as valued as the people with the posh cars. We have people who go, do you know what? I'd like to know a little bit more about what you believe. Great. But we also have people who go, do you know, the whole religion thing, not for me, but I love the fact that you're doing community. They need to feel as included as much as the others. So we hope that we're creating this space where people just feel invited to be welcome. If they want to explore stuff, they can. If they want to talk cars, they can. And that's okay.
There's a lovely, without disturbing you there, Adam, there's a lovely comment in the from Gregory Kilmurray. He's one of the first people that came to Revs Enville, and I think that just says it all, what we're about.
Yeah, really lovely.
Yeah,
thank you, Greg.
That comment from Greg, one of the key values of Rev has always been about restoration of cars. So we get a lot of people sharing their restoration stories, and there's some amazing stories of cars that come out of the garage looking better than the day they left the factory. But also restoration of people. Restoration of people on a mental health front, because that's one of the things that we've been championing massively through lockdown. Restoration through some of the work that one of the charities that we support is doing, Mission Motorsport, who take people from the armed services who've left and joined Civvy Street, who might have things like PTSD, and help them and support them in their road to recovery. And then restoration from a faith point of view, those of us who are Christians believe that God offers restoration to people and his love, and so people can come and be invited to experience that if they want to. So there's restoration going on all kinds of levels. So
brilliant. It's an amazing story. Sorry, Adam.
Very long answer to a very
no, it's fine, because I think it's really important that we hear the story, because I think it's one of the things that you and I have talked about is actually stories are really important.
Yeah, massive. And I think again it's providing a place for people to share their stories. So for Charlotte to be able to share this amazing story of a family connection, that it means so much to her.
Yes.
I think the group, it's become a real leveler for people, because you've got all kinds of cars, all kinds of people from all different backgrounds and things like that. And I think just in terms, obviously Revs has the history before the pandemic, but just in the context of being in that pandemic, to be able to create a group that is, it's a complete leveler. And so, you can get, real enthusiasts who get all the magazines, watch all the TV programs, watching a live stream of someone that they admire from the TV, and they can post at the bottom of that video a question that person will respond to straight away. That's incredible. The lift, that small example in itself could bring someone during a time when they're cut off from everybody and everything that, as human beings, that's how, cut off all those things that make us happy and make us fulfilled. And to have that space through the Revs community is incredible. And the fact that you can come at it from any kind of perspective, angle, how you enjoy your car, whether you do all the uprating, all the mod cons, and you change things. There's no judgment. It's just very much just share your story, tell your story, and there is no judgment as to if you're struggling, and you're encouraging people to talk about that. And it can be really hard. So if people have that safe space and that's been created because of cars, then that's an incredible achievement to have made. But it's important that you told that story to say that this started before the pandemic, and the way that community has adapted and grown through it. It's incredible.
I think too, the whole story thing is so vital, because we say every car has a story, and there are some amazing stories with old cars. Charlotte's MGA is one. To do the Monte Carlo Rally and win it. And other people whose cars have been through some amazing experiences or been on major long journeys. But with every car comes a story. Every owner has a story. And every person's story is different and has its own experiences and its own scratches and dents where stuff has happened, and perhaps its own need at times for restoration, where people have really been struggling through mental health issues, particularly with the COVID stuff. We've had people contact us after the first Revs event. There was somebody who said, "I'm not religious, but when you prayed that prayer of blessing at the end, I was in tears because I've been on my own. My business is going down the pan, and this gave me my mojo back." Just think, flipping it. We just put on a car show. Or you've got people who come to our small groups. I mean, Greg comes to our small group, and people who go, the fact that this is here for me, that I can come, I can have a bacon sarnie, I can feel part of something. I'm not judged. I'm not, and for some people, they've not set foot in a church for years. And suddenly they find themselves walking into a church, being given a bacon sarnie and going, "Show us your car." They love it. they've found a home where in a place they never thought they'd find a home. You know,
Fascinating.
I think it's interesting what you say about the cars. You know, the cars having a story, but I think that the cars only have a story because of the people that own them, or because of the people that are involved in them, right? And I'm, you know, self-confessed not petrol head, but I wonder if the car industry is a bit like the church. Like, it can feel quite exclusive. You've got to have a language. You're in or you're out if you talk in a certain way, and you know, and I have experienced the Revs community just through Adam, and signed up to the group and stuff, and I get all the notifications of all the conversations that are happening, and it's so inclusive, and it's so, I even like posted once, didn't I? And started a conversation about something car related, and it does have that it does have that kind of inclusive vibe, and you don't feel like you have to cross a threshold, really. I suppose you do in one way. You have to put yourself out there a little bit just to sign up and say you'll follow the group, but after that it's so easy to get into it and meet all these lovely people. And I think in some ways it's a way to start learning about cars and get excited about them, as opposed to coming from the other place.
What would be nice? Sorry, have you finished it?
Yeah.
So what would be nice was if we can continue growing the monthly meets around the country, because the more of those we have, the more the Revs Limiter people can engage in those and take out our cars and bring them along to different groups, because you know, there's a massive support network, not just for cars but for people in there, and bringing this lot together could be an enormous, you know, we talk about messy church. Revs groups are just the same as messy church. You know, we can bring it into a level of a church and roll it out the country. My wife even came out with when we were having a brainstorming thing before Revs Limiter even started, and we talked about opening them up in different parts of the country. Obviously, COVID has caused a problem to that rollout, but she said we could have a Revs roadmap. You know, you could actually find out when these are on. You could go out to any of the Revs around the country, depending on what weather is. If people want to take the cars out, excuse me, for a drive out, they can connect with people who have got the stories. You know, like Charlotte's and the car being the granddad's. You know, there's a massive story there. That's a people story, but there's a story with the car, like you just said. It's perfect.
Yeah,
it's a fabulous way of bringing people together, and they support each other massively. The people that come to Revs Enville, to Shrewsbury, and I'm sure it'll happen in Biddulph, they support each other massively with their cars, with their personal circumstances, illnesses, all sorts of things. It's a fabulous, fabulous group.
I wonder as well if there's a parallel that can be drawn. So, you know, if you're new to the car community or curious about the car community, and also potentially exploring a new journey with faith, you know, and Revs kind of brings those two journeys together, because, you know, you can be curious about cars, you can be curious about faith, either or, both at the same time, and it's a place where you can come along and do that. Because, you know, as someone that isn't particularly mechanically minded, my journey into automotive has been through a relationship with my grandfather, and then what this car has meant to me with him not being here anymore, going from passenger to driver. And, you know, the Revs community, I don't know about pistons and all the different, you know, very technical stuff, but I don't feel uncomfortable saying that in this community, because there's all kinds of people in there. And it's the same with, you know, if you're exploring faith, if you're curious about it, nervous about it, what it might mean, you know, and I think people have, for both communities, there's preconceived ideas of what being into cars means, what having faith means, and in this space you can just come along and see what's what, and kind of go with what, you know, with what you find and what you feel. So I think that's a really nice, that could be a parallel that can be drawn as well.
I think you can, the key is that you can dip your toe in as little or as much as you want. And I think it's it's interesting you draw that parallel, Charlotte, because, you know, I very much came from this, you know, all those years ago thinking, you know, I grew up in the church. My dad was a vicar. My mum was a vicar. You know, we got given vicar's collars for Christmas presents. No, we didn't. You know, I grew up in a culture that has a language of its own, that has a kind of a way of being of its own. That if you're new and you come into that, it can be the most threatening and bizarre experience out. You know, the very fact that, depending on the churches you go to, there's some person down there with a dress on, standing up, leading everybody. What the chuff's that about? And so, you know, I came from it with recognizing that was a world that so many people in our culture today are not familiar with, and are maybe not even comfortable with. And yet, here was I thinking, well, there is something really good about that, and it's called love, and it's called hope, and it's called God, and it's called Jesus, and it's called faith, and it's called doing great stuff and making the world a better place. How are we going to separate some of the baggage from that? And you're right. You come into a community of car lovers where you go, I don't know about pistons, camshafts, turbos. What the chuff are they? And some places can be very exclusive. And so, how do you marry these two together? And there is a sense in which we're kind of making this up as we go along, because I'll try stuff, or I'll get people involved, and it'll go flat, or other things will go really well, and there's no hard and fast rule. But I think what is the key thing for me are the fact that it's all about people, and it's all about relationships. And, you know, I could still be in my little church trying to do a car show on my own, and it wouldn't work. The people that I've met, the people that are here, the people of that Revs Limiter community, of the Revs groups, of, you know, places like CMS where I trained, you know, all of those people have had a hand in it. All of those relationships are significant and important, and this wouldn't exist without them.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Who's knocking in the background? Somebody's like doing some.
Who's got?
Oh, can you hear some banging?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I'll mute myself. It's my neighbours. I
Oh,
can't do anything about it, but
Don't worry.
I'll mute myself.
I
Okay.
don't mean-
Adam, I wonder if you could answer Graham's question about
Yeah, I was just gonna
knowing
say.
more about Revs. Where can I find out info?
So Revs has a number of different ways you can contact us. We have a email address, which is simply revslimiter@gmail.com, and you can contact us and we can send you some information. If you're on Facebook, you can find Revs Limiter, which is the big online community that was started during lockdown. Just search for that, or you can find individual groups. So there's Revs Shrewsbury and Revs Enville, ENVILLE, and you can find out what's going on in those small groups. What we're really hoping, and I know this comes into talking about the future, is that we can increase the number of Revs groups that are operating in the country, so that if somebody's down in London and they're part of Limiter, but they want to meet people face to face, you know, we might have a Revs London, or we might have a Revs Cornwall, or actually Revs Cornwall would be lush, cream teas.
Everybody visiting that one.
Wouldn't that be awesome? I'd be double my size then. So you can join through Facebook. I have a Revs profile on Instagram, which you can also look at. At the moment, we don't have a website. Currently, Revs is completely self-funded. So we are, you know, things like websites that cost money, we have to kind of leave to one side for the moment. But obviously, we want to do that. We do want to think about how we meet face to face. So yeah, but the first instance, if you're on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, you can find us there, and at revslimiter@gmail.com.
We've got our 6th Rev event next. Is it next Saturday?
Next Saturday we're doing our next online event, which is called Revs Jubilee. And it's not because we're big fans of the royal family, although we're not big fans of the royal family. But Jubilee is this time where you know, it's this ancient tradition. In fact, it's so ancient, it's actually biblical. That it was kind of a year of reset, a year of looking forward ahead with hope, a year of restoration, because things like debts were cancelled. If you were a slave, which they had back in those days, your period of slavery ended and you were set free. And it just felt a really good kind of parallel with looking ahead with hope as we start to come out of lockdown. What are we looking ahead to hope with our cars? So we've got the whole, we've revisited some of our contributors, including Charlotte and her dad. We've got Vicky Butler-Henderson, Fuzz Townsend from TV. We've got Autocar Magazine are involved. Aston Martin Works are involved. But we've also got people just who can finally get their car out of their garage now and go for a drive, where they're going to share some stories too. So it's this idea of singing a song of hope, looking ahead with hope. You know, what does the future hold? Sales pitch.
So it's good if you like, kind of just to, you know, we're coming out of lockdown. Hopefully, you know, that the roadmap that's been laid out for us will continue. You know, you've started face to face. You've then gone online. What happens next? I'd be really interested, you know, to kind of explore. And if people have got any suggestions, it looks like Crystal is already willing to crowdfund you, which I think is brilliant. So maybe that's you know, maybe there's a sign there of something, I don't know. But yeah, just it would be great to hear from any of you who are involved. You know, so what happens next?
I think we're talking about Revs the movie next, aren't we?
Wow. Who do you get to play yourself, Adam?
No, I'm going to get Kiefer Sutherland to play me.
I can see
that. Or Eddie Izzard, that's the other one.
Well, we are trying to open up the Revs meetings again. Certainly in Enville, in my mind, I think July is more likely to be the earliest possible date. August is probably definite, unless COVID sort of starts taking over us again. But the Revs Enville, we were talking the other day, and I think July is probably the earliest we can get, and everybody's desperate to get back. We've got some people that are, you know, car owners that are, you know, single, you know, and they've been locked away for, you know, what their hobbies are driving their cars around to different groups. It's amazing how many car shows they actually go to, or car meets they go to, and they're in, some of them are in quite difficult places. So we need to get open as quick as we can, really, and obviously we need to market those meets along with the online presence as well, because then we don't know how many in the Midlands are looking, you know, at Revs Limiter that could pop along to our meetings, you know, and actually really grow the group even more.
I think one day, like my kind of dreamy vision would be that we could have some sort of festival, and you know, you could get people to come along and you could do live streams from that festival. So if there was like we sort of did that in a way. We tried to do it in September last year, but then the rule of 6 came in on the Friday, I think it was. So the plans got a bit scuppered again by COVID. But the idea was that, you know, we had a base and a kind of a site where people came along, and we live streamed from Vista Heritage. But you know, one day it would be incredible to actually have a day festival, weekend festival, where people can come along in real life and turn that sort of, you know, that digital interaction that they've had with someone into a real life one. Yeah. You could also live stream from that event as well, because you've got people tuning in from all around the world. And like you said, you know, if someone's further away from an event, they can still watch bits of it, you know, on a live stream. But I just think something like that, because I think that will be the kind of moment, if you're at that festival and you think, wow, like, you know, I can't believe COVID happened. I can't believe we've lived through it. You know, it's been exceptional, like, circumstances, and it would be a moment to sit back, you know, with people in real life, 3D humans, you know, to be like, you know, this is a thing, this is real, because we all know it's real. We know it's a community because it functions as a community already. But I would be so excited to feel what you know, when it's safe to do so, a big group environment would be like, and it's like, this is Revs, your Revs, I spoke to you. And, you know, imagine those interactions of all those people who've watched their videos and the stories and the, you know, we'll all be knackered by the end of it because we've been talking so much. You know, and that sort of thing would be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that I mean, we've talked, I mean, I've had conversations with everybody actually on this group about some kind of live thing, and we do want to do that. We recognise that to do a live festival, there are all kinds of implications, not least of which is financial cost. One of the things we've tried to do with Revs is not to be about making a mass profit, because that's never been our key thing. Where we have made money, we've tried to donate it. So Mission Motorsport, for instance, has been our main charity. And when there's a brilliant artist called Ian Cook, who's Pop Band Colour, his name is, and he did our T-shirts for Revs Limiter, and did mugs and did pictures and all sorts. And we made sure that when we sold those as merchandise, Ian took obviously his amount that he needed to take just to survive, because all his events had been cancelled, but our lot then went to Mission Motorsport. So and that's not bigging ourselves up. It's simply saying, if we want to do a festival, we've got to think in a whole different way of how do we get the finance to do that? How does it happen? How do we secure the area?
Support those people that we supported with the virtual. You don't want to suddenly be like, oh no, this is not charity anymore. We're doing this because, you know, we want a party. It's not about that. It's about, you know, the continuation of the spirit and ethos of what it already is and building on it.
And actually, people want to give something. One of the things that we recognised was that people were sat at home, but they wanted to do something really positive and constructive. And giving to Mission Motorsport was a brilliant way that they could do it. And they really kind of embraced that. And people have since come back to us and said, really, really glad we were able to do that. So we want to keep that going. But obviously, yeah, how do we finance a festival of, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 people, which is what it could be, looking at the numbers that we've had joining the group. So yeah, we want to do it. It's how we move forward from here. The other thing that Catherine and I have been working on is actually, what does Revs itself look like as an entity? Because we don't sell anything. We're not, we're not like, oh, let's go down to our local Rev store and buy a bottle of milk and maybe a bottle of engine oil. We're kind of this vague, wispy, will-o'-the-wisp type thing. So actually, Catherine, do you want to say something?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I've loved about Revs and how you operate, Adam, as well, is that, which is kind of different to a number of the people that I see on a regular basis who've got ideas and want to start something, is that they see all the barriers. Like, they don't have a space, they don't feel they've got a budget, they don't have a website yet, they don't have a board, they don't have an entity, and they feel like these are all things that they need in order to get going. And you've got none of those things. You don't have a website, you don't have a board, you've got a steering group now. You didn't have a venue, a place as such, but these aren't reasons to not try and do something. You've used what you can, and you've used what you had, which was Facebook, a network, you had a little bit of cash, but those are the things that have got it going. And so that's what I've loved about this idea and this community. But I also am really excited about how we can now start to put some kind of structures around what you've created to just help it be sustainable, I think, and to help it grow. So that's the exciting bit about the next stages, is how we can get it stable and keep it
very
going.
much what Nick and Charlotte are saying. The limiter's been great as it is, but there's no substitute for actually meeting people face to face, sitting down and chatting with people. Whether people come and say, I don't do the God thing, but I'm just here because I love cars. Or somebody else might come and say, well, I don't do the God thing, I love my car, but I've had a really crap week this week and I just need somebody to listen. one of the things that we found during lockdown, one of the things that we found at Enville at Shrewsbury, is that whenever people start talking, they do want to say, actually, I'm really struggling. I've just lost my job, or you know, a relationship that I have has fallen apart, or I just feel really down and I don't know why. And we just want to create within those places that safe space that's okay to feel like that. And you can come and you don't have to try and be something that you're not. You can just go, actually, it's really tough. And I don't want to talk about it. I just want to smell some petrol.
That's what would make, you know, a real life sort of Revs event unique, because car shows are usually just about petrol heads and, you know, sort of cars revving and sort of, you know, actually there's more to it. And one of the things that I find amazing about driving my car is it's 60 years old. You have to concentrate, you know, you're smelling things, you're looking at things, you're watching the dials, and you're really having to drive it because there's no power steering. And so that experience is completely mindful, and that's really good for mental health. And that didn't happen last year as much because we couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. And so to have a space where I could talk about how I felt, you know, and talk about mental health in the context of a car show, be it virtual on Facebook last year, but to have something like that potentially in real life as well, that is not something that is out there now. That does not exist, you know. So again, like, then it's just working out working out this transition as we all transition into whatever this new normal life is going to be like, and how we can make Revs applicable in that environment and still, you know, do what it has done in the last year in the future.
And even things like
let us know.
The offer of prayer, because some people will go, I don't mind being prayed for, you know, it's quite nice. I'll take a risk on that, you know. And so we offer prayer very simply, so that through Enville and Shrewsbury, we did it so that people just wrote on a slip, I'm having a really crap time, will you pray for me? Bung it in a thing, well, they used to bung it through my sunroof on my old Rover, or they had a little box in Enville with a slot in that you could put it in. And nobody needed to know who they were. They didn't need, you know, they could just know that there was a community of people who believed that God had something to say in that situation. And they were just praying that God would show them their love, his love in that situation. That was it. You know, we do it on Limiter, whereby people can just email us, and they simply email us a name, and it might be a one-word description, and it's just a first name. So it might be Adam, job loss, or Fred, relationship problems, or Janine, depression, or whatever. And there would be a small group of people praying about that person, just asking God to be with them. Simple as that. Nothing more than that, but just so that people knew they were valued and supported. When we did the stuff at Bicester Heritage, we talked a lot about mental health, because we recognise that this time of lockdown is a mental health time bomb that's waiting to go off. And you know, we had one discussion where Charlotte, our friend Alex, and myself were sharing our mental health stories. And I think to see people online going, actually, I had a time in my life where I was at the end of my rope, actually started enabling people to say, you know, I've struggled with depression, or I'm really struggling right now. So I think it's, you know, hopefully we bring all those things, the prayer, the mental health stuff, all together, and again, that these aren't exclusive at car people. Actually, you know, this all can somehow, in a weird, wonderful way of life, actually work together.
Yeah, brilliant. It's been, I'm just aware, we've been here for an hour. It's been an absolutely thrilling conversation. It's been so good to hear the contributions from all of you. It's been a really rich conversation, and thank you so much. Rev, have you got you've got a prayer which I know sometimes that you finish with? Yeah.
So this is an old Gaelic blessing. Somebody asked me if I wrote this. I could have earned millions from saying I did, but I didn't.
It might be an appropriate way for us to finish our time together. Thank you so much for all of our contributors for their time today and for their brilliant contributions. It's been absolutely fantastic. So I'm just going to hand over to Adam.
So this is the blessing that we use at the end of every virtual event we've done. We use it during our small groups too. And this just goes out to all of you who are listening and to your loved ones. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft on your fields. And until we meet again, whether online or in reality, may God hold you and your loved ones in the palm of his hand. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, guys. Fresh Expressions will be back. I'm not quite sure when the next one is, actually, so keep an eye out on social media. But thank you. It's been wonderful to hear this story. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.